Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Hump day. Mike. So I continue to listen to Napoleon Hill's 10-hour recording of his master section. He didn't call it mastermind, but it was, I'm not sure when this thing was recorded. It must have been recorded in about the 1930s or 40s, probably in the 1940s. So when Napoleon Hill initially received the commission from Andrew Carnegie, first of all, Napoleon Hill, as I said, had no prior experience in this whatsoever. He'd never written a book. He had no degree on research, no degree on science, no degree on writing. He had a tremendous amount of enthusiasm, and when Carnegie gave him the idea, he approached it with complete certainty, which is why Carnegie gave him the idea and said, I'm gonna give you this commission to write this book. And Carnegie said, this is going to be my legacy on knowledge. He created his legacy with regards to philanthropy. Carnegie really created philanthropy. Later in life, he looked back at how he had made his money and regretted some of those ways that he had done that, but also had learned things along the way. We had passed child labor laws by that point. And so he was the one that said, you know what, when you get a golden ticket, as Warren Buffett talks about, you have an obligation to go do something with that to help better society. And he was really the first one to come up with that idea, and that was the libraries that he built all over the country. He built over 1,000 of them, one of which is in my hometown of Freeport, Illinois. So the second thing that he wanted to do was he wanted to create this book of how is it that all of these men in the industrial age acquired the riches that they did. Because some of it was timing. I mean, there's a list out there of the wealthiest people to ever live, of like the 30 wealthiest people to ever live. And 4 or 5 of them are in the industrial period in the United States during that period of time, just because of opportunity. And that took into consideration pharaohs and kings and the like. But it was more than, just being at the right place at the right time. They also had a certain approach and certainly a certain drive. And Carnegie wanted to capture that and be able to pass that knowledge along. So when he employed Napoleon Hill to do this, he said, I'm going to give you the resources. And the biggest thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you access to these people. You're going to have access to 30 of the most successful people the world has ever seen, including himself, of course, and then J.P. Morgan, and then all of these other people. And I want you to write this book. Now, when Napoleon Hill took on this commission, it was for free. Carnegie wasn't paying him. He said, I'm going to give you access and I'm going to give you the resources, but you own the book. Napoleon Hill, you are the one that owns all the rights. Carnegie didn't want anything. He just wanted the credit that he had sent him on this mission. So Napoleon Hill worked for 20 years without being paid. Now you can imagine his family all thought that that was the craziest thing ever. And he talks about that a lot in this recording that I'm listening to, how everybody thought he was nuts. Just like everybody thought Walt Disney was nuts, just like everybody thought Thomas Edison was nuts, just like if you thought that if in the early 1900s, you thought we would travel to the moon, one of the originations of the word lunatic is that you thought someday man would travel to the moon. So he did it for 20 years, but once he published this book, he within his lifetime saw that the book was going to sell 100 million copies. And it still sells, and we're approaching 100 years from when he published the book, and it still sells like crazy. Now, how did he see himself through that 20 years? Well, he operated with absolute certainty. He operated with the complete belief, and the appropriate word is probably faith, that this was all going to work out. He could see the end result and how valuable it would be. Now, he himself said, I figured I would sell 1 million copies of this book. And he goes, and I had thoughts that maybe it would do better than that. But he goes, I didn't think that I would see that it would sell 100 million copies. That in my lifetime, I would see that it was clearly going to sell 100 million copies. And a lot of people that are super successful like that say that they could see that it was going to work out, but they didn't see that it was going to work out the way that it did, that it was going to end up that big. But that kind of is the pattern. They definitely could see that it was going to be significantly successful. And Napoleon Hill had absolute belief in that. He had cut off all other options. If you're going to work for 20 years on one project without getting paid, that's somebody that has gone all in, has burnt their boats, and has decided this is going to be successful no matter what. He left himself no other option but to figure this out. Just like the people he studied, just like Thomas Edison and his 10,000 attempts to discover the light bulb, just like Cortez, as we say, when he came to the new country, he burned his boats, and as a result, his men were highly motivated. Napoleon Hill, think about that. 20 years without getting paid, waiting for the payoff at the end. Well, you've put yourself in a position where you better get that payoff in the end. So as we're going forward with our goals, we have to remember that we are the ones that have to have the faith that it's going to work out. And faith is an appropriate word because there is this point where you jump, where you take this leap and decide, I'm going to achieve this no matter what. I'm going to create this outcome. And you're not going to know how you're going to do it. You might not even know exactly how much of an outcome you're going to create, but you know you're going to create success in some fashion. And when you take that leap, you then give yourself no option but to, in fact, become successful. So whatever it is that you're going to do, whether it's losing weight, whether it's you're going to be a certain level of parent, you're going to be a certain level of spouse, whatever those things are, remember that it takes an amount of faith and it takes a leap in order to get there. Grant Cardone has a great line where he says, a lot of people think that it takes money to make money. They think that it takes intelligence to make money. And he says neither one of those are true. If you have those things, it helps. But what it takes to make money is courage. Courage is what makes money. And courage is what puts people from average levels of success to significant levels of success. That they're willing to take the risk. That they're willing to take the criticism. That they're willing to have everybody around them say, what are you doing? This is crazy. This isn't going to work. Why are you taking these risks? Why don't you just play it safe? And that's not to say that you shouldn't play it safe if that's where you want to be and where you want your goals to be. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's where you want your life to end up, then that's where your life should end up. But if you want to be somebody that is talked about, if you want to be somebody that's a role model, then you're going to have to do something extraordinary. You're going to have to stand out, as we talked about. And those people that stand out, they have courage. They're willing to take that criticism. They're willing to take all of that negative feedback and let it, take it in and take it for what it's worth. You got to pay attention. You got to have sensory acuity. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to make the decision that this is the outcome that you're going to create. And you're the one that's going to take that leap and burn your boats and decide, I'm going to produce this outcome no matter what. And when you take that leap, then you're going to do it. How did we go to the moon? We decided to go. That's how we got there. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching. Good morning, Uncle Bill. Good morning, Valerie, Andy, Miranda, Jim. Good morning. Good to see you. James and Tyler, everybody's up, and Adam this morning. Let's all take care of each other. We're all in this together.